I am breaking my 1.5-year-long absence from TikTok, and I am reactivating my account because I truly believe that we need to be utilizing every opportunity and platform we can to make others aware about what's happening in the United States. And I hope that this reaches as many people as possible, and I hope especially that it reaches the people in my area, the people of Tennessee. Last month in May, the Tennessee Highway Patrol announced a partnership with ICE to assist in immigration enforcement. And there are people in my area who still call that fake news, even though it was announced by Tennessee Highway Patrol themselves. Ever since then, they have been utilizing DUI checkpoints for immigration enforcement without being transparent about that with the community. They are legally obligated to announce their checkpoints and what they're for, where they're going to be, and when. But all they're saying is that these are DUI checkpoints. These are seatbelt checkpoints. Yet when people show up and they don't have immigration papers, they're getting shipped off. Last month in Nashville, a woman named Chelsea White, who is an American citizen, was driving her husband through one of these THP DUI checkpoints. Her husband was in the passenger seat. He is undocumented. He was removed from the vehicle, and he was deported back to a country that he has not lived in 25 years. He is not violent, and he doesn't have a criminal record. She is pregnant, and they have children at home. He provides for their family. And so now she's left trying to figure out how to take care of her children, how to pay for her house, how to pay for her car, how to support her family without her husband, and how to give birth to their child without her husband. They are not just taking criminals. They are not just taking people that are unsafe in our communities. They are taking anyone who's brown, that doesn't have papers, and they're also messing with U.S. citizens and legal residents too. And in fact, over half of those who have been detained and deported had no criminal record at all. And only about 6% of those that they have deported do have a violent criminal record. So I can't imagine that this is very effective, what they're doing. And the risk of terrorizing people, of breaking up families, of taking fathers away from their children, just because they don't have papers and not because they are violent or a danger to anyone around them, that is a cause for concern. We should all be concerned. And so I was concerned, and when I found out that there was going to be one of these THP checkpoints in Johnson City, I decided to go check it out because I think that it is my responsibility as a member of this community and of this area to look out for everyone else and to hold the local authorities accountable. And I wanted to know if ICE was in our area and if they were utilizing this DUI checkpoint for immigration enforcement. And so I showed up. There was no checkpoint. I got a gut feeling to check a church up the hill nearby that was kind of tucked back. And I'm glad I did, because when I pulled up, I saw that at this church, there was an entire parking lot full of Tennessee Highway Patrol vehicles, local police, and unmarked vehicles. And after a little while, they started piling out of the church. I didn't know what they were doing. I didn't know if they were working on an operation, if they were doing some kind of immigration enforcement. I had no idea. So after a while, when they didn't set up the checkpoint and they all left, I decided to go over there and ask the officers that were still in the lot what was going on and why the checkpoint was canceled. And they claimed it was because of the weather. But there was no rain, there was no thunder, there was no lightning, there was no bad weather. But the checkpoint never happened. I reached out to the church and I asked them if they knew of any kind of immigration enforcement or operation that was happening within their church doors. And they said that they did not believe that that was happening. They couldn't definitively tell me that it was not. They said, I don't believe it is, and I don't foresee us doing that in the future. And I pressed harder and I said, I really would love a definitive answer. Will you or will you not work with ICE, work with federal immigration enforcement? Because I believe churches should be safe havens. They should be sanctuaries. They should protect people, not make people afraid. And they stopped corresponding. They could not give me a definitive answer. So I wrote on their Facebook page and their pastor responded, and he still didn't give me a definitive answer. I called the sheriff's office, the local police, and Tennessee Highway Patrol, and I only got through to the sheriff, who was not very happy that I was calling, was very defensive, and did not want to answer my questions at first. But I did push a little bit more and asked for transparency, and he informed me that it was just a DUI checkpoint that they canceled because of the weather. The church was feeding them, and there were no federal agents present. So if in the future we find out that there were federal agents present, then we have local authorities that aren't being transparent with us about that. I held on to this information because I did not want to create any kind of unnecessary fear or panic, but in the days surrounding and following, a lot more things started happening, and I started connecting the dots. Because that very day, there were reports of ICE sightings in Johnson City by other people that I did not know. Last week sometime, I myself witnessed a fleet of commercial vehicles that had the H1 commercial fleet plate, often rented out to companies, federal agencies, blacked out windows, SUVs and trucks in my area, like right near where I live, driving around the back roads together as a group, getting on the interstate together as a group, and then getting off down the interstate at an exit in Morristown. That night, there were reports of ICE staying at a hotel in Morristown. And the day before, they were in our area doing THP checkpoints. All of that combined with the fact that Marsha Blackburn, the most evil woman in Tennessee, I believe, who would probably gladly take an award for being the most evil woman in Tennessee, she's been constantly posting and praising ICE on her social media, cosplaying with them, praising their efforts, calling anyone who gets in their way radical leftists that hate America, and trying really hard to normalize this presence of ICE in our communities. Masked, unidentifiable men rolling around with weapons and tactical gear, going up to people in broad daylight and detaining them and taking them away and not telling anyone else any other information about who they are or what they're doing. And you could say all day long that these are just police doing their job, getting rid of the violent criminals. And I would ask you why they're hiding their faces if they're not doing anything wrong and they're just doing what the local police do, who don't hide their faces when they're working. And what would you do if a bunch of masked men ran up to you in a street and tried to grab you and whisk you away in an unmarked vehicle? What would you do if you saw your neighbor being picked up and dragged away? Someone you knew that was a good person, that you loved, a part of your community. What would you do if you saw them being whisked away by a bunch of masked, unidentifiable men who have been doing nothing but terrorizing communities, and only 6% of those that they've been capturing are actually violent? We have reports of people who are dressing up as ICE agents and kidnapping and robbing people because an opportunity has presented itself to those who actually are criminal to act like the police. And when you don't identify them, when you allow them to run around masked, that gives them the opportunity to do whatever they want. They can commit crimes, they can detain people unlawfully, unconstitutionally, they can kidnap people, they can kill people. And when you normalize it and act as though this is just fine, who's going to save you when it happens to you? This does not stop at undocumented immigrants. This doesn't stop at legal residents. This doesn't stop anywhere. And U.S. citizens are just as unsafe as those who are not citizens because of this tactic, this terror tactic that is not meant to keep us safe, but meant to scare us and to get us used to a police state. And I'm asking you to be aware. I'm asking you to share with your friends and family, to look around, to pay attention, to think, not to incite panic or fear or to fall into conspiracy, but to pay attention to your reality and what's happening. And if you think that this is concerning, to do something about it, show up at meetings, show up at town halls, call your local authorities, call whoever you need to call in your area to stop this from happening where you live. What's stopping them from coming to your house next? Because you posted something on the internet that they didn't like, or because you were critical of their operations, or because you're a registered Democrat, or because you were queer, or eventually because you're not the right brand of Christian to them. There are so many ways this could go wrong, and are already going wrong. Make no mistake that this administration wants to make a point. They want to make us fearful, and they want to get us used to a police state. Don't normalize this. And when you see it, act appropriately. Act like this is not normal.